forgive me for this trap shit. Sergeant Smack make it backflip. Telly Hank did with the action. With the Vato speaking Spanish. Frank Matthews, how I vanish. Poof. Came back like I'm King Tut. Gold BBS is on a beamer. When Fat Cat was 10 queens up. Ball off the profit, not the re-up. Fly like Puerto Rican Jesus. Uptown like I'm Baby Maine. Just caught a touchdown from the Bay.
You know, and
are we gonna see Wolf in the?
Of course, we get this. This pivotal stuff. Like we need
see a Puff.
You know, it's interesting in the Wolf case because your friends will push you further than your enemies at points because they won't see how far they're going with things. You know what I'm saying? But they have relationships. They traveled went to Africa and hung out on boats and stuff like that together. Like, but prior to this,
that's a crazy story. I heard that story.
Yeah. I invited Suge to my birthday party. Suge came to my birthday party with just him and his one dude.
Right.
I invited Puff to my birthday party. Puff came with the whole Bad Boy crew. Right. They had beef from that source shit. Right. But I wasn't ever even thinking like it was no real beef. I wasn't even invited. I wasn't thinking about it like that.
Right.
But the whole night went. The party was great. Beautiful party. Everybody had a good time. Then we went to this after party. We went to the after party. I guess Puff and Suge had some kind of like said something to each other before whatever at my party. So when they got to this after party, Suge came to the club. And Puff went outside, and they had their words in the middle of, what's the street, Maurice? Huh? What street we was on? So anyway, they had like their little words, right? And they went outside, and they were in the middle of the street.
They were in the middle with Puff
and
Suge?
middle of the street, Puff and Suge.
Wow.
Outside in Atlanta.
This is at your party?
Yeah.
Is it a calm conversation or they?
No, it's not a calm conversation.
Okay. But
it's
not just them.
It's a very hostile conversation.
Okay. And their cruise is
ain't no crew. I mean, Suge has got one person.
Oh.
Puff got a crew.
Oh.
Suge got one dude with him.
Okay.
Right? Okay. And all I know is Puff started drinking his champagne while they was talking, and I guess somebody must have said something to him. And next thing I know, Wolf, rest in peace, he let off a shot and let off a couple of shots, and Suge Man got killed right there.
Wow.
In Atlanta.
Yo, we back. It's your ace Popalot. Mob, gang. We on our way to NYC with it. Y'all already know. Headshot City. Y'all meet us in the Bronx. We headed to the Valley. Now, anybody tuned in from the Valley, we definitely need y'all in the comment box. Let us know what's going on in the hood. Now, based on my research, they're going to say the Valley is a neighborhood located in the Bronx that is between Gun Hill Road and Baychester Avenue. And the person that we're covering today is somebody that they will refer to as a Valley legend. And the person that we're talking about is going to be a guy by the name of Anthony Wolf Jones. Now, if you're familiar with hip-hop, definitely in the 1990s, you probably know or heard the name Anthony Wolf Jones. If you're familiar with anything about the rise of Bad Boy Records, you definitely know the name of Anthony Wolf Jones. Now, for most people that heard of Wolf, or when he comes to mind, they probably think of the muscle to Bad Boy Records in the early days. But honestly, before Bad Boy probably even was a thought or idea, Wolf had already had his feet in the streets and began making a name for himself. Now, growing up in the Valley, which some would label as a rough section of the Bronx, with Wolf turning out to be the somewhat notorious figure that he had turned out to be, a lot of people would think that he got his name from the animal due to the animal's intimidating characteristics. But in an interview, his mom would go on to say that he would get the name from a childhood friend of his by the name of Troy and Troy's sister. And they pretty much gave him the name because he would have that widow's peak at the top of his head, him and actually his little brother. So they took on the moniker Wolf Gang, and it would change from Wolf and Wolfie to Wolf and Little Wolf. Shout out to Wolf's little brother. It was said growing up, he would align with several guys from his neighborhood and they would go on to form what was known as the Valley Mob. Not exactly quite sure what kind of work they put in, but it was said that they was very well respected on the streets. Now, Wolf would go on to graduate from Harry Truman High School in the Bronx in 1983. And presumably with an eye on the streets, it wouldn't be long before he landed himself in trouble when he would face an attempted murder bid in the early 1990s. Now, I'm not exactly quite sure how much time he would serve on that attempt bid, but he would find himself back at home for the launch of Bad Boy Records, which was founded in 1993. And due to his relationship with the founder and CEO of Bad Boy Records, Sean Puffy Combs, and his reputation in the streets, which he is the one that is noted to have introduced Sean Puffy Combs to the notorious but mythical figure, Eric Von Zip. And we all know what his connection to Bad Boy Records was. But through those relationships he would go on to establish in the streets and in prison, that would lead to him landing a security job with Bad Boy. And this was no regular security deal, because it was even noted by Gene Deal that Anthony Wolf Jones was pretty much on a salary with Bad Boy Records. He said that Wolf was going to get paid whether he worked security for Puffy that night or not. Going on to say that Wolf was one of the only people that Puffy would really listen to besides Heavy D. Going on to say he mainly listened to Wolf when it came to security situations and anything that had to do with the streets. Now, with Wolf fresh home from that attempt conviction, he would find himself as security for one of the hottest record labels when Bad Boy would launch, and they would drop acts like Notorious B.I.G. as well as Craig Mack. And from that point, it would essentially be no looking back. But the thing about rising to fame, you also going to encounter a certain level of hate. And that's what Bad Boy Records would keep guys like Anthony Wolf Jones on the payroll for. And it was said that on the night of September 23rd, 1995, Wolf would end up making his money. Now, with the bad taste from the Source Awards, which had just happened the month before in August, Puffy and Riz would find themselves at a birthday party for Jermaine Dupri in Atlanta. Now, in Jermaine Dupri's account of the situation, he would go on to say that Puffy was with the entourage, Wolf being one of the members of that entourage, but at the same exact party was a person that a lot of the tension at the Source Awards was behind, and that's going to be Suge Knight. And Suge Knight was there with a close friend of his and someone that people would name as his security, a guy by the name of Big Jake Robles. Now, based on reports, some altercation would occur at Jermaine Dupri's birthday party, and it would spill over to some sort of after party that would lead to all parties being in the streets and Puffy and Suge Knight having a heated discussion. And it was during this heated discussion where Jermaine Dupri would say Puffy would go on to take a sip of champagne, and it would be then when he alleged that Anthony Wolf Jones would produce a firearm and begin the firing. And this goes to show the characteristics of Anthony Wolf Jones and what he would do to go to protect Sean Puffy Combs at that time, because we're not sure if Big Jake Robles was the intended target or if he intended on hitting Suge Knight. But in the process, Big Jake Robles would be shot and killed. Now, Anthony Wolf Jones would never be charged with that murder, but it was wide speculation in the industry. It's like almost one of them things in the hood where everybody know who did it or what happened, but nobody got charged for it. Now, it would be some time after that event where it would be rumored that Anthony Wolf Jones and Puffy would begin to have some sort of split or fallout. Some people say it was over money. A lot of people reference a $300,000 payment. No matter what the situation was, Anthony Wolf Jones would find himself spending more time in Atlanta. Some people even said that he would leave New York and head to Atlanta. I even read some reports to where they said that he might have been security at Justin's, which is Puffy's upscale restaurant in Atlanta. And right around the time of Wolf's travels or move to Atlanta, it would be another big organization making a name for themselves in the city of Atlanta, and that would be BMF, or the Black Mafia family, which was headed by a guy by the name of Demetrius Meach Flannery that we all know now. But at that time, he was not known to many people, but he was friends with Sean Puffy Combs as well as Anthony Wolf Jones. Now, I heard a wide range of stories of these guys spending time, to the level of them taking trips, as 50 Cent referred to early on in this episode, even to the point of them being at Wolf's family's house while they were barbecuing. So there was definitely a level of relationship there. And when I talked about the split between Puffy and Wolf, some people would say that it was because Puffy would start to hang under or around BMF a lot more so, whereas at one point in time, if he was going out, he would probably have Wolf by his side. But with forming that relationship with BMF, he probably felt comfortable with the amount of numbers that they would go out with at night. Well, regardless to what the situation was with Puffy or his relationship with BMF, on the night of November 11th, 2003, things would change forever for BMF and for Anthony Wolf Jones. Because it would be on that night where, according to BMF affiliates, they would be partying at Club Chaos with several women and several guys in their entourage. And this is where a lot of confusion into Wolf's deaths come into play, because a lot of people would say that he got into an argument with BMF leader Big Meech over a female. And that might be true, but it does not explain the whole situation. Now, BMF had several women in the club with them, like I explained. And one of those particular females happened to be with an associate of BMF, a guy by the name of Eric Mark Whitty, or Swift, which is the nickname that he went by. Now, he was connected to BMF because he was tied into Exotic Motors down in Florida, and he would actually go on to become a CI for the government against BMF, which is crazy. So during the course of BMF partying that night at Club Chaos, it is said that Anthony Wolf Jones would receive a call while he was at another establishment. A lot of people say it was Magic City. And he would show up at Club Chaos and he would semi-confront, I guess, the female or BMF, attempting to have the female leave the club with him. Now, this situation sounds deep. And I seen an interview with Southwest T's wife where she would go on to semi-defend the female because they would label her as a stripper. But she would go on to say that this female was actually a friend or associate of BMF, and she had been with Wolf on that trip to Africa. So it was definitely some kind of personal relationship there. And that's where it get real tricky anytime females or money is involved. But during the course of the confrontation, Wolf is asked to leave Club Chaos. Now, if you're asking yourself, why would they ask Wolf to leave? You got to think that BMF is in this club every however many of days, spending however amount of money. So Wolf is going to be the odd man out in that situation. Now, we're not exactly quite sure if Wolf felt a certain way due to the situation with the female, due to him being kicked out of the club, or due to the relationship that Puffy was maybe establishing with BMF. But everything would hit ahead when the club would begin to close, as Big Meech and BMF associate and someone they referred to as Big Meech's bodyguard, a guy by the name of Amin Bull Hart, as they would arrive at Big Meech's Cadillac SUV, they were confronted by Anthony Wolf Jones and a friend of his by the name of Riz. It was said that a verbal altercation would ensue, and according to sources, it would be at that time where Wolf and Riz would produce firearms and begin to open fire on Big Meech and Bull, actually hitting Big Meech in the butt and actually hitting Bull in the back of the leg. And it would be at this time where a person who is not mentioned much would return fire, essentially killing Anthony Wolf Jones and Riz that night in Atlanta. Now, with Anthony Wolf Jones killing Jake Robles in almost essentially the same style, that should tell you right there exactly what he was on. Now, in a twist of fate, Big Meech, who was essentially a victim in that shooting as he was shot as well, would also become the prime suspect as he was charged with those murders. Now, as we all know, he would not be convicted because he would end up running one of the biggest drug trafficking organizations that the nation has ever seen. But this goes to show y'all one valuable lesson I always try to teach. Most enemies start off as friends. Y'all make sure y'all follow me on Instagram, on Twitter, POP_A_LOT. Y'all make sure y'all hit the red subscribe button right under this video so y'all know when this real trill spill shit is dropping. And y'all flood the comment box, especially if y'all from the valley. Y'all get in the bottom and check in. Y'all let me know what cities we haven't been to, what stories we missed, what gangsters we haven't covered. And y'all know I'm going to be back ASAP. Shit got Popalot. MOBB.